Big thanks to DeShazer Ryan Realty for sponsoring our E3 coverage this year. Let's start talking about Ubisoft, Matt. Kick things off with Rainbow Six Extraction, formerly called Rainbow Six Quarantine. I think the first thing I would say is that I was pleasantly surprised by this game. I had seen a lot of leaked gameplay from people playing the beta, and I don't know, it just didn't seem like it had a lot of spark to it. And I'll be honest, I wasn't even really clear on what it was based on those leaks. But now it's pretty clear. It's like it's a Left 4 Dead clone in an age of Left 4 Dead clones. And I would argue that this one seems to be more ambitious than even Back 4 Blood, which is built by a lot of the people who worked on Left 4 Dead. What were your impressions of Extraction?
I mean, it's more involved than I expected it to be because, like, what we'd seen before kind of made it look like a sort of a quick and dirty, maybe free-to-play zombie game, like so many other things are. It felt like it had a lot to it, like a full-fledged game. It felt like, it might function as a pretty good companion piece to Siege or The Division. If you're into that kind of thing, it's probably not a thing I will play.
I mean, Ubisoft needed a zombies franchise, right?
Yeah, like it was the only thing it was missing.
The only thing they weren't publishing at this point, and everybody else has one.
It just reminds me of so many other things at once.
It borrows a little bit from a lot of different.
There's even having digested a bit. There's even some prototype in there.
Yeah, actually, you're right. There is a prototype in there. I'd even forgotten about that.
And their outfits. I don't like to bring this up, but their outfits with the yellow and black remind me of Haze.
Yeah.
It just feels like somebody put a whole bunch of concept art in a blender and came out with a zombie game.
Yeah.
And called it Resident Evil. Called it Rainbow Six Extraction. Rainbow Six.
Yeah. I mean, I still think they probably were better off maybe launching a new IP instead of attaching it to Rainbow Six.
I still don't think that's true because that just would make it even feel even more generic. At least this way you have the built-in sort of attachment to the Siege characters, even if we don't know who any of them are.
Yeah.
They're doing a whole back behind the scenes thing of how they made the new Siege operator they introduced in this thing, which like clearly people care.
They do. I mean, Siege is huge.
Like they're doing a whole thing here where they had like a woman from the actual tribe that the character's from, that Thunderbird's from, and like advise how to get everything right and all this. So clearly this is a big concern. Like who these people are in this game is a big deal to someone.
Yeah. The whole goo mechanic in the game, very interesting. That's something I've never seen in another game. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than something like Mario Sunshine or something.
Not that kind of thing. I mean, it does seem to function somewhat like the creep in StarCraft.
Yeah.
Where, like, once it covers an area, the Zerg have advantages and stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of a game like that, like I can't recall something like it.
Very slick how it's handled.
Yeah, and it feels like a next gen feature just in the sense of how it it morphs things and changes. It feels like it's a nice high tech thing to do.
It sounds like it could change every run, which with games like this, pretty important.
Yeah.
But it does have kind of like you play
through
a section.
Knowing Ubi, the inspiration was Splatoon.
It may be. You're right. But it does play kind of like Left 4 Dead. You fight through a certain section. You get to a safe house where you restock. You're collecting biosamples as you play. And then you use that science to actually build out your tech to help sort of improve your weapons.
That's very XCOM.
Yeah. You're right, though. I mean, it borrows a little something from everything.
I mean, sometimes that's all you need. The synthesis of a bunch of good ideas from other places, sometimes that's all you need to get something to catch fire. I don't know if this is that.
Yeah.
But you never know. Like, it's, weirder things have happened.
That's for sure. I mean, that's for sure. Next up, Rocksmith Plus. Just kind of a next evolution of Rocksmith. Not a lot to talk about there.
No.
It's
cool that that's continuing to go on. It's like all the others. I mean, I know Rock Band 4 still puts out DLC all the time, but like, when was the last time you hooked up your plastic guitar to anything?
Yeah.
I actually I talked with someone about like doing like a Rock Band party or something, and I was like, I don't know if I think I have like one guitar left. I got rid of a lot of that
still have
stuff.
everything. So if you need it,
I might need to borrow some stuff.
Hit me up.
Yeah.
I would like to come if you're cool with me showing up at your party. I haven't played Rock Band in a long time, and I know I would still enjoy it.
I do still have the Aeon drums.
Oh yeah,
that full electronic
I just have
drum
the
kit.
drums that came with it. I don't have.
I have that whole thing. I've only used them like twice because when I got them, I lived in an apartment, and I realized that drum pedal goes right through the floor and the person below me was like, "What are you doing?"
You know what? I never got complaints about that.
Yeah,
we have carpeting in our apartment though.
That's
might
right. Yeah, I have hardwood, and like I tried it with like a mat, and like it just it was
Yeah.
just all she could hear was bang, bang, bang. I'm like, okay, I'll just stick to the guitar and the keyboard.
Next up, Riders Republic, another game that I would say I was pleasantly surprised by. I didn't expect a lot from the game before the press conference.
Like Extraction is sort of like, I don't want to play this, but like I respect what it's after.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like I'm like, oh wow, that's a lot of cool ideas in there. Like I know it would bore me after an hour, but like.
Would it though? Because
yeah, it would. I played Steep. I know. I played the Crew 2.
They showed snowboarding, mountain biking, wingsuits, jetpacks, paramotors, skiing, and rocket bikes.
Yeah, I just don't care. It's
you couldn't
racing.
even get through all those in an hour.
It's just racing.
Yeah.
I need something else to do. I need conflict that isn't just like be there first.
Yeah.
And the thing that appeals to me about stuff like Forza is the cars. I like cars. I don't care about bikes. I don't care about wingsuits. I don't care about snowboards. I have never been interested in the nitty gritty of any of that stuff. I like Tony Hawk because it's a platformer, not because it's skateboarding.
Yeah.
That's just not a theme that appeals to me. Which is
I do like the theme, but my bigger concerns are that most games like this, that jam together a bunch of sports.
Right.
A lot of the sports are really freaking simple, or they're just not polished.
Well, and as someone who does like cars and boats and planes, I thought that was exactly what went wrong with Crew 2.
Yeah. Also from Ubisoft.
Also from Ubisoft. Also pretty much the same idea.
Yeah.
When you come down to it.
It is, yeah. Sort of the design of the game is very similar.
And you end up with sort of this thing that just feels scattered.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do next, so I'm just going to turn it off and do something that's a little more guided, I guess. Like there's a I love open world stuff, but there's a point at which it just becomes either overwhelming or like paralyzing. Like it's just like, okay, I don't know what to do next, so I'm just gonna play Mario for a while. And it's just like because in that game I go right and I know what I'm doing next. You know? It's sometimes I don't want, you make a lot of decisions in life. I don't have to decide which race to go to next. Just send me to somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what these big open crazy Ubisoft games need, is a randomize button. Just like pick something I haven't done yet and send me there. Just go. Just tell me what to do.
Now, we'll say this, like, maybe my skepticism is a little misplaced because it seemed like in Steep they did do a pretty good job with all the various disciplines.
Yeah.
I didn't play it a ton, but what I did play, I was pretty impressed with.
Yeah, I mean, I only played like the early stuff on that, but like from what I understand, as someone who has never been snowboarding and has seen snow twice in his life,
it's so bizarre to think about.
It seemed very authentic to me, as someone who doesn't know anything about that. It felt fine. And I've gotten into snow. SSX3 is still my favorite snowboarding game of all time, but.
Tricky for me, but
it's fine. I mean, Tricky's also great.
Yeah,
it's like I can see it's kind of a head-to-head race between those two things.
Yeah,
SSX3 for me because it simulates being on a mountain, that big thing, which I guess would not be as enticing or appealing to someone who has actually done that.
Right.
Tricky is more of a fantasy thing for someone who's actually snowboarded. For me, the fantasy is, I'm on a snowboard.
Yeah. Being able to hear Run DMC the whole time I'm playing didn't hurt either.
I mean, that
there's just something about it. Like, I was also very good at it. I think that, in a lot, for most people, that helps people really enjoy
I get
games.
the tactile synergy of Tricky being someone's favorite. For me, it was 3.
I could see that, too. It was really the first open-world snowboarding game. Yeah. Really innovative.
It was way better than Amped.
Way better than Amped. Oh, my gosh. That's not even a comparison.
I mean,
the first game that almost got me killed for being a games journalist.
Oh, yeah.
Amped snowboarding. Literally, people wanted to kill me.
Where the real death threats began.
Exactly. I could never understand how people could care so much about that game.
It was because it was an Xbox exclusive.
But how could there even be fanboys for Xbox at that point? It had just launched.
Because there were people who always hated Sony and were looking for something to jump onto.
Isn't that crazy, though, how quickly people took up that mantle? Yeah.
All they wanted was something that wasn't Sony.
Yeah. It's bizarre. Or Nintendo, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they ripped through, like, Rainbow Six Siege. It's coming to Stadia. With crossplay
and cross progression.
Yep. And they showed an animated short for that. Then they showed Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs.
The animated short was introducing Thunderbird, the new character.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Then they showed Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs showing up in the Crew 2. Makes perfect sense.
Sure.
It makes no sense.
And we come around 180 on that, where people like Aiden Pierce all of a sudden? Isn't he like the worst video game protagonist of an entire generation to most people? Like, I thought we hated Aiden Pierce.
He's like a blank page of paper.
Like, that was the whole point of Watch Dogs 2, getting completely away from him and that tone and everything. Like, Aiden Pierce shows up for like half a mission in Watch Dogs 2, and you never even see him. It's just mentioned that he was there at one point.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we just didn't want to talk, him and his iconic hat. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember they tried to like
right.
It was the pre-order for the big. It's like, you can get his iconic hat. I'm like, the iconic hat of the character that isn't a game that hasn't come out yet, that no one knows what it's.
Yeah.
It's like,
and the guy even before that, he looked so uninteresting.
Oh, yeah.
And he was uninteresting.
Also, like,
as it turns out,
that character in that game, he's wrong. Like, what he does is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing good about what he does in that game. He's a terrible person.
They're bringing him back, Cal.
He's a terrible person, and the game doesn't seem to realize it.
Next up, they showed Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC. And announced that they're supporting this game through 2022.
Yeah.
Is that a smart move, Matt?
It sounds like it's the smart move if you have no other Assassin's Creed game until the end of 2022.
Or it sounds like any other open world game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else. It's not like you got another Immortals
Far
coming.
Cry, and after that,
Far Cry will definitely have support.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's, they got to make this stuff last. I don't think they have a lot for the beginning of 2022.
They don't.
Ghost Recon seems to be hibernating.
Do games need to last this long? Like,
I don't know. I think Valhalla lasts long enough as it is.
Right, I mean, the base game is already gigantic. Do we need, like, 2 more years of supporting the game? Like, how many people do you think are going to come along for that ride?
I don't know. I do know that, like, I have completed Origin and Odyssey 100%.
Me too. Well, not 100%, but I finished
100%,
the
all DLC, the whole thing. Like, I have everything in those games, achievement-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And you play the DLC, like, especially the second DLC for Odyssey, and, like, the most basic achievements are, like, 5% of gamers have unlocked this. So, like, you're saying to me, and this
That's
is
5%.
and this
Those
is not like
started it.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not like people, like, it's not like, oh, finished the DLC, or like, although the percentage stays pretty solid through the whole thing. So it seems like
5% of
between
their
5
audience.
between 5 and 10% of people who played the game on the platform actually played the DLC. And most of the people who do, judging by the percentages of the achievements, most of the people that start the DLC do finish it. Because they stay about the same. But, like, sometimes you get this stuff that is just like, oh, no one played this. Like, certainly in comparison to the rest of the game.
And you think about the work that goes into it. Like,
also you think about how many people bought the season pass version and just never loaded up the DLC, and they still got your money for that.
Yeah,
so maybe
true.
they don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe the devs care because, like, their hard work doesn't get seen by anybody. But Ubisoft got the money already, so they don't care if you play it or not.
Now, sometimes I can understand it. Like, if you don't have another similar game launching in the near future, like, I kind of get it for Valhalla, but
yeah. I do go back to Valhalla.
That's a lot of work for 5% of your audience.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do go back to Valhalla. I mean, if it did make financial sense, they wouldn't do it. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
But I go back to Valhalla pretty regularly, but partly because it's like an easy, mindless game to just jump back into and listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video or something while I'm doing it. And I don't. I just turn the subtitles on. Don't really need to listen to it. Hack up some people, invade some stuff, ram a ship into a building, and call it a day. It's like. It is kind of a thing I continuously play over the course of, I'm sure over the course of 2 years, I guess. Why not? There's always going to be some kind of low period or doldrums where there's nothing coming out, and that's when I tend to go back and finish those Assassin's Creed games I still haven't finished.
It seems like anymore, there's always something new worth playing. Like,
no, I wouldn't say so.
I hardly ever go back and play stuff anymore.
I go back and play stuff all the time. Still,
yeah, I know you do. Yeah, all the time. I'm glad you do.
I even went back.
Because you provide a different element to our coverage that I don't.
I even went back and finished Unity.
Yeah.
When they updated that for the FPS boost, I'm like, I'll see what that looks like at 60 frames. Cool. I finished it. I never finished it before.
Yeah.
Because it was too broken to play back when it came out.
Yep. From there, they went into their TV shows, and they just focused on the film Werewolves Within, which will probably be a piece of crap, but it didn't look terrible in the stuff that they showed.
It took me a minute to figure out that was supposed to be a movie and not like a skit for the game intro. I was like, oh, this is you're actually saying it's a movie. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I hear you. And then they went into Far Cry 6, and really all they showed was just a cinematic.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
But they did show kind of a tenet of the game, which is, as you said, part of the struggle of the game is figuring out if the young boy is going to follow his father and become a dictator, or he's going to join sort of the resistance.
Yeah, like they're focusing. There's always a focus on villain stuff in Far Cry, and like others have been sort of what they are, and this one seems to be kind of examining. Okay, so he, Giancarlo Esposito's character Anton, his father is the one who took over the country, and he became the tyrannical leader, succeeding his father. And now his son has to choose. So basically, you're seeing the creation of a new villain or not. They're kind of exploring what would turn someone into that.
Because they've never really done that. My guess is that he does not become a villain, because then they would probably have to make another game where he's the villain, and that's really not the MO of Far Cry.
Or that would make sense for your weirdo Spin-off is like an alternate universe where Diego goes super villain, and who knows what happens.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I liked New Dawn. I thought it was the weakest of the spin-offs. I think those spin-offs work better when you go completely
just
disconnected from do something entirely unrelated to the numbered game
off the reservation. Yeah.
It's just we'll see. I mean, obviously that's a ways out. And judging by the villain thing they have with the season pass, like maybe they're doing that already. In the the DLC for Far Cry 5 also was pretty weird. The Mars thing. And all this.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So so they're not against giving it to you early on. So then that villains DLC certainly looks
the season pass stuff where you play as a classic villains, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is a rare case of an E3 showing not really budging my hype level for a game at all.
No, I mean,
like it didn't make me more excited, and it didn't make me less excited.
I mean, it's Far Cry 6.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited to see Giancarlo Esposito do sinister things.
Yeah.
Like I would be in anything. But I hope he got some payment for having that Peloton in the background of his interview with Jeff Keighley on that Summer Games Fest thing. That was some good product placement there.
I'd be interested to see how this is tracking for Ubisoft, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Far Cry. It's probably going to do just fine.
Yeah,
when
I'm just saying, like, with pre-orders and stuff, like, I just don't feel like it's one of those settings that just right out of the gate when you see it is really compelling or exciting.
No. I mean, I don't know. Like, we'll see.
Do people care about Cuba? I mean, I don't mean, like, the people of Cuba or whatever,
right.
But, like...
I don't know. I mean, it's not Cuba.
Right, but it is.
They're doing the usual thing where it's just like, oh, we're not trying to make a political set. Like, then why are you recreating Cuba?
One of the biggest
fucking
political
own
hot
it, people.
rods.
What the hell is wrong with you?
It's
like,
the lightning
so
rod
annoying.
for politics right now. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Or like, what was the thing with the thing with the lightning tornadoes and stuff, like the game. It was at the Summer Games Fest, I want to say, but I can't remember what it was. It was like there were lightning tornadoes they're adding to this thing, and it's like a climate change.
Like
involved.
I said, I didn't watch it. I was busy getting ready for this stuff, honestly.
Hang on, I just talked about it with somebody. But it was like another thing where it's like, oh, you're leaning a lightning tornado. Battlefield 2042. That's what it was. Where there was like, oh, lightning, because it's supposed to be a climate change and all this stuff's going on. And they're like, oh, well, it's not a political thing. We don't want to say it's a political thing. We're not just. I'm like, well, then why are you using climate change and the lack of care about it as like one of your core gameplay elements?
Yeah.
Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't you can't portray the genocide and then say you were not talking about the genocide. Like, it's not a thing. I wish these companies would just like own what they're doing with these things.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would say about Far Cry is it doesn't really tend to matter that much what the setting is.
No.
Once you get into the game, because they're big games and like the story elements aren't as prevalent as they lead
the
you
marketing
to
will like you
believe.
to believe. Like, that's,
yeah.
You'll see Anton like 3 times in the game, and that's the first time. And you'll see him like halfway through, and then
I feel like we do this every time with Far
Pretty
Cry.
much.
And then we play it, and we're like, wait a minute, there's hardly any
there's
story
nothing in here.
this.
I'm interested in the city. The city is there. The Havana equivalent is there, and there's never been a city in a Far Cry game before, so that's cool.
Yeah.
We'll kind of see what that turns into, and there's a little more like hiding in plain sight stuff with like you can
holster your gun.
And like use papers to get in and out instead of sneaking in and out. Like
you don't have to kill everybody all the time.
Yeah, there's more to it than that, and like there's like sabotage stuff where you aren't necessarily being.
I'm excited for it. About the same way I'm always excited about a Far Cry.
Right, like I'm always in for a Far Cry game. Like it's not, but it just doesn't really move the needle one way or the other.
Agreed. Next up, what we thought was going to be the finisher. Mario plus Rabbids 2, Sparks of Hope, not coming until 2022. They said that there are new action elements to it, but I'll be honest, I didn't see any of that stuff in the trailer that they showed.
I mean, I think like it looked like maybe the bombs they threw were like counting down in real time. So like you had to get to the, because you had
in an amount of time.
Yeah, you had like a big circle that the character could move in, and like it looked like you had to get to it and throw it before it blew up.
Those were the new action elements.
I don't know. I mean, moving around in the open area, like in between battles, seemed like it had more to it. I don't know. I think we might see more of it at the Treehouse, or maybe,
I think they're gonna probably demo it a lot on the Nintendo streams.
There might be some timing stuff for the attacks and things like Paper Mario
that'd be cool.
style.
I would be down with that for sure. Cool trailer, though, set in the Mario Galaxy universe, quote-unquote, which is probably my favorite Mario universe, to be honest with you, other than the straight-up Mushroom Kingdom. So I'm cool with that. I'm a big Mario Galaxy fan. So it's cool that they found kind of a different angle on it. But I think I'll have to wait to see some gameplay to start forming really an opinion on it. Again, it was a game that I enjoyed, but I never finished the first one. And I feel like I did, in a lot of ways, play it because it was one of the only kind of big games for Switch at launch. It'll be
also, there was a novelty to it of like, oh, wow, Ubisoft crossing over Nintendo.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that holds now that the installed base is gigantic and people have a lot more options. There's a lot more games available for it now. But what they showed I thought looked pretty good. I mean, graphically, it looked real good. So.
Especially if it comes out in the same window as like Breath of the Wild 2.
Yep. And then the last thing they showed, the one last thing for Ubisoft, was Avatar. They had not shown really anything from this game. In fact, they had not really shown anything from the film. This is the first look we've really seen at like any of like the creatures or the settings for the next Avatar film.
Yeah.
We talked about this during our live reactions.
And it appears that this, we don't know what the next Avatar, the next Avatar film is rumored to take place underwater to a large degree, so this may not even be necessarily related. It's just like they made it a
could be
game.
An
extension. Yeah, that's a big planet to play on, so they could, do whatever they wanted, really.
Are you excited for the film, Matt?
No.
I am.
No.
I am excited for it.
I have no interest in Avatar. I mean, I'll go see it because it's the big thing, but like, I'm always, never bet against James Cameron. Is sort of the watchword in Hollywood, especially after Avatar and Titanic.
Yeah.
But I thought Avatar was a bad movie.
I enjoyed it.
Beautiful. I mean, a really cool theme park ride. But I think it's notable that it was the #1 movie in the world in history for a long time. And I think it is again because they re-released it to rebeat Endgame because that's how petty Jim Cameron is.
That's funny.
But I think it's notable that was the #1 movie of all time for quite some time. And nobody talks about it.
You're right. Yeah.
Nobody references it. No one quotes it. No one talks about, that's like an Avatar where that happened, because it's the most generic nothing story with zero. I have to do the thing where it's like, okay, name a character from Avatar.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's hard. Yeah.
The main guy is Jake. I remember that. His name is Jake Sully. But I mainly know that because I asked this question.
What's the name of the gruff military sergeant?
I have no idea.
Who gets in the mech knife fight?
I don't know. I remember. I refer to them by their actor names most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's
back. It has been a long time.
He's back apparently.
Watched it in forever.
Somehow.
Oh, what?
He's in it.
Huh?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
He's in it. Sigourney Weaver's in it. Like everybody's coming back, even whether they're dead or not. So we'll see what happens.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be in.
And look. The people who watch Avatar probably want to see those characters return. So
I mean, there's going to be no shortage. They already shot 2 of them.
Yeah.
And they're working on 4 and 5. So
yeah. Now checking out the game, the trailer that they showed didn't really. I am kind of clueless on what. I mean, it appears to be an open world action adventure.
Open world action thing. I mean, I think from a couple of quick cuts they cut to like a first. I feel like your template here is Far Cry, like running through the jungle and sliding around and doing stuff like that.
Looks like you have air mounts.
Yeah, jumping on the Banshee and flying around on that thing. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look bad.
Still bizarre that's the first look we've seen at this stuff.
Cameron has full control over all that stuff.
Right.
So this had to be at least partially his call. So he is confident enough in this game that he thought that was an acceptable way to sort of reintroduce Avatar to the world, because I'm sure we're going to see a whole lot more Avatar between now and the end of next year when it comes out in December.
Yep.
But this is the first shot across the bow, and this must be a real strong partnership between him and Ubisoft if that's what's happening here.
Game looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like technically it does.
Technically, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I did play the first game a fair amount. I didn't
make it too far. I'll be honest.
I didn't dislike it, but it was very generic.
Meh. Yeah. It was your typical licensed game where it didn't have like a lot of like creative spark to it.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, we've got this stuff in here. We've got the plot right. We got the sign off from the big guy. Off it goes. It just remember Ubisoft's King Kong game?
Oh yeah. I saw a couple that got brought up recently.
Oh, really?
I saw a couple people say that was one of the greatest movie games ever made, and I'm like, what planet are you on?
I will say this: the bar is pretty low, but still, that game was awful.
It was
most
terrible.
people just played it because of the easy achievements.
Yeah, it was easy. You got all the achievements just by playing through it.
Yeah,
it was very boring.
Yep.
Launch game.
Okay. We're going to take some questions from you guys if you have any questions about the Ubisoft press conference. But while you're putting the questions into chat, Matt and I are going to give a grade for Ubisoft. What letter grade do you give that press conference, Matt?
It's like a C-.
Yep. That's where I'm sitting. It was like very meh. I mean, honestly, if you watched the preview that we did in 15 minutes right before this started, we pretty much had everything right that was going to be
between us and Vincent. There were no real
if you read
there.
Vincent's entirely too many E3 predictions article, he pretty much laid the whole thing right down for you.
Never doubt me on Beyond Good and Evil 2 not showing up.
You were right.
I will tell you when Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to show up. Believe me.
And now I am really starting to wonder if it's ever going to come out.
Yeah.
Also, I'm wondering if Roller Champions was canceled.
That's a good question.
Because
it's a question no one cares about the answer to.
I know,
but it's a question.
Which means maybe it was. Yeah, they've done tons of like betas and stuff for that thing. I've talked to people that have been in them, and they have like been pleasantly surprised by it. Like most people I've talked to who have played it like it, but it's such an obscure concept for a video game. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
There was a hot second where roller derby was a thing. It was a big deal.
Yeah, like late night, like basic cable TV always had roller derby on. And
there's a period where like almost everyone, like a lot of girls I knew of the right age were in little roller derby leagues in LA. But like, again,
that's LA.
That's LA, but it's also a lot of places. Montreal had it too.
Yeah.
But also it's like, I think the last year really put a damper on the popularity of roller derby.
A lot of things, but that's one of them. Yeah.
The real casualty of COVID is roller derby.
Yep. No Battle Cat, but you said that was kind of
way
known
too
beforehand.
way out there. I think that's too early.
Yeah.
I think the fact that all we know is the code name is an indicator that they're not ready to show that one.
Yep, that's a good point. So there you
We're
go.
never getting another Splinter Cell.
Probably not. I mean, I don't know that we need it, honestly. Like, I just think pure stealth games it's a tough market for those games these days. Even Hitman did really well reviews-wise. It never really made a blip on the sales charts, so...
It did sell like 3 times what the last one did, though.
Yeah.
So
that's
doing
good.
Okay.
It's good. It's progress. Okay, let's get to some questions if you guys have any. Here's one from... Oh, first of all, Vincent says... And this is a problem about being live while this stuff is all breaking. It says that Ubisoft's press release says that Avatar is a standalone story and not based on the movie. So that's probably why he was okay with showing it.
Right, but I guarantee there's still some elements in there.
Yeah, there's some creatures in there. And
there's
stuff.
some previously unseen designs in there, so clearly he's involved.
Yep. Let's see if we got questions.
Nothing happens on Pandora without Jim say so.
Emperor Dread, is Ubi creatively exhausted, seeing a lot of staples and not a lot of invention in these games?
I mean, there are those who would say that they've been creatively exhausted for the last 10 years, but like, I've always liked what they've made.
Well, I think, Matt, you hit the nail on the head when you brought up, like, maybe why they're going to extend Valhalla DLC out so long is because they're taking a break on Assassin's Creed, maybe to spruce it up a little bit.
That's what I think.
And I hope so, because look, Ubisoft has definitely fallen into a template. There's no doubt about it. Where it
their reinvention of Assassin's Creed has become the template for Assassin's Creed. You got to mix it up again.
Yeah,
you got to make it more. The next step for Assassin's Creed is to sort of bring back the blade in the crowd idea. Yeah. And there's some of that in Valhalla, but not to the degree. You don't have cities.
But that's all we get is a little bit of it.
Right. You don't have cities that were with the density that we saw in the old Assassin's Creed games. I mean, replaying Unity or picking up my save in Unity and finishing it, I had forgotten how many people are in Paris in that game. Like, it is really you have to fight your way through crowds at points, and like. That is, the original concept of Assassin's Creed was the blade in the crowd. Yeah. It was that idea.
That's the core concept of the franchise.
And it'd be nice to see them bring that back. I do think there is room to basically do a remake of the first game, do a reimagining of the first game. Like, you take what they've learned over the last, 13 years and sort of incorporate it, sort of revamp
but also
the mythology.
keep like the targets and the assassinations.
Yeah,
as a
like
big
go back
part
to
of it.
the idea of like planning an assassination and having the assassination be like a big deal. Like be like, you're working your way up to like basically a heist mission.
Yeah.
Like you have to do this and you can, just like the first game, you could do all the prep missions, or you could skip some prep missions and like maybe have fewer options when it came to the big assassination. But like the problem was that the prep missions were very boring. Sitting there listening to eavesdropping, and if you listen to the people talking in the eavesdropping mission, you'll find out there's stuff stacked behind the venue, and that'll get you up there. Who's going to do that? Nobody would want to climb a bunch of boxes. I'm like, I will climb a bunch of boxes. But apparently in the original design, those eavesdropping things were like 15 minutes long.
Oh, that's way too long.
And like you just have to sit there and listen to them and hope you found. Basically, you have to sit there and listen to them.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah, and try to find in there the relevant part of the conversation. Yeah. And that was sort of like supposed to be like doing the work.
Yeah.
I don't want that, but like I'm just saying like finding a way to sort of change the thing up so the assassin. So maybe like in Assassin's Creed 1, maybe there's only 8 assassinations in the whole game, but each assassination is a whole act,
like a major
is
event.
A whole like you have to make sure this goes, and like there maybe are consequences for a messy assassination where you have to be that blade in the crowd, you have to be unseen, you have to get away like a ghost, and if you aren't, there's narrative consequences for it, and the next one will be harder because they're looking out for you or something like that.
I like that idea.
I think you could do that and kind of reimagine the Altair story, because he did have 9 targets in that game.
Yeah, he did.
And I think you could reimagine that and kind of go that way. Frankly, you're sort of pushing it sort of towards the old idea of Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Planning out your moves before you do them.
Executing. Yeah.
So that would be my take on an Assassin's Creed.
But to answer your question, like you're right. Like they have become, I wouldn't say creatively bankrupt, but creatively deficient. It seems like,
or at least
they found a formula that resulted in high Metacritic scores and resulted in high sales. And it's hard to blame
justify
any company for sticking with that. But
there's an ain't broke, don't fix it thing in play. Certainly with Far Cry, I would say.
Yeah. They feel like they can use the theater, the setting, to sell each Far Cry.
Yeah.
Well, the design remains the same.
Yeah, and I think that's not wrong. Like the theming of the Far Cry is more important than anything else, really, in terms of getting people interested early. Like Far Cry is always going to be Far Cry, one way. And I wouldn't want it to not be that. I want it to feel.
I mean, there are franchises where, and that's why I say sometimes like it's better to start a new IP, like with Rainbow Six. Like to me, when someone says Rainbow Six, I think tactical shooter. I don't think like zombie shooter.
I mean, they're trying to make that zombie shooter tactical.
And it is.
The question is, question is whether it will survive contact with the enemy, and the enemy is us.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
all right, let's see if we have another one here. Minority Games. Where's Beyond Good and Evil 2? Think it's canceled, Matt?
Could be. Non-zero chance it doesn't even exist anymore. But
I would agree with that. Dan Boy 90. What would Ubisoft have had to do to get more than a C-?
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
Really, like that's.
Well, I think it's just deliver something beyond expectations.
Yeah, something like that. Give me my dancing panda. Wild. I don't know. Wild is not Ubisoft really, but
keep in mind, C isn't a bad score. It's just average.
Yeah.
If I don't know. I looked at it and I'm like, was that an above average Ubisoft press conference?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was average.
Tease me with the next Ghost Recon. Bring back Hawks. I don't know.
Look, they could have shown maybe gameplay of Avatar, and if the gameplay were amazing and something unique and innovative, sure, then it gets bumped up a little bit. But
or like
just a lot of known quantities. We kind of guessed everything that was going to be in it.
Surprise.
And over-guessed in some
Surprise,
cases.
Skull and Bones isn't in development hell. Here's what it looks like. Like, there's a lot of stuff they could do, but there's just not. It wasn't ready. This stuff wasn't. You can't. New Splinter Cell, new. Whatever. Put Splinter Cell in Hitman. Sam Fisher in Hitman. Let's go.
Okay, we'll take one more. This is also from Damn Boy. Jeff Keighley just tweeted to say, unless you have been approved by the ESA, you stream reaction to conferences is going to get flagged on Twitch and YouTube, FYI. Well, that's good, because I've actually now found a reason behind registering for press as press for E3. Maybe our streams aren't going to be taken down and our YouTube stuff is going to be taken down because I registered as press. But Keighley has kind of bucked E3 at this point, and so I feel like
did he get flagged? Is that what
I don't
that
know if
implies?
he did. He's just trying to warn everybody else. I feel like he's on a little bit of a crusade, to be honest with you, to turn people against E3. Would you agree with that?
Somewhat.
Like a lot of his tweets are derogatory towards E3. He obviously created a competing event that he did in conjunction with E3 last year, and now this year he's broken away from it. Look, I love Jeff to death, but sometimes when stuff like this happens, you have to look at what would be the motivation behind the action. And
I mean, I
think
really
it's pretty clear in this case what that would be.
I don't really disagree with him. Like,
it needs replaced or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled by the Summer Games Fest, but I don't think that's the fault of him or anything. So
no,
I think it's just a largely a fault of the year we're coming out of. But like, I don't think he's wrong that we need to like stop thinking of the ESA as the only option here.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I just think that he's using a little bit of subterfuge to push people in the direction he wants.
Yeah,
them to
he
go.
should probably just be a little more plain spoken about it.
Or he could just create a better event and then let the people decide this is
I think
better.
He's on
I want
the
to
way.
support this.
I think he's on the way to doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's his next goal. I think he feels like he's got the Game Awards sort of locked down on what they need to be or what they're going to be. And I think his next target is a June.
How do I take over E3?
6 months. He wants something every 6 months, and then he wants to kind of do a Game Awards equivalent to replace E3.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, he could do it.
Yeah.
If anyone can do it, it's him. That man can network and market with the best of them. So that's where he came from.
But my point is that's what he's doing.
Right.
He's marketing Summer Games Fest by tweeting stuff like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all that can really be done this year. But next year, look out.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Interesting to see what he does.
Yep.
And remember, like, he's very good at that. That was his secret back in the day. Was like everyone else was going through PR, he was going through marketing.
Yeah.
And marketing controls PR.
It does.
Like, there were multiple times when he went straight to marketing, and marketing decided to do a thing, and PR had to cancel plans with other outlets. Yeah. Because marketing trumps PR.
Yep.
And a lot of people hated him for that, but it was the smart move.
Well, there were
that's how you win. People.
Yeah. For example, there were times where when I was at GT and he was at GT, he would get an exclusive for the TV show. Mm-hmm. And he'd contact me, and because sometimes he'd use the site as a sweetener. Mm-hmm. He'd be like, okay, well, I can get Shane on the site to give you a bunch of placement and promotion and whatnot. So he would contact me and say, hey, I have this exclusive on this game that we want to feature on Game Trailers TV with Jeff Keighley. What can you do for it? And I'll be like, I already have an exclusive lockdown for that game because I was dealing with PR. Mm-hmm. He was dealing with marketing. Mm-hmm. And so those two weren't even connecting the dots with each other and talking to each other.
PR and marketing do not talk to each other a surprising amount.
It's not as much as you would think, for sure. They don't coordinate as much as you would think either.
No.
Yep. So that's
certainly not back then.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little more so now with social media and everything kind of being interconnected. But certainly back in the day, those are two very separate departments.
Yep.
It was a little weird.
It is weird. Because they should work hand in hand.
Yeah, you'd think.
You would think. Yeah. Okay, that's it for the first day of E3 2021. This is the only live press conference we're covering today. It's really the only big one. It actually worked out perfectly. It got us into the groove of doing our E3 production and all the techniques we need with our TriCaster and all that kind of stuff. It worked out perfectly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the broadcast. We will be back tomorrow much earlier. Everything kicks off tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, but we actually will start at 9:45 a.m. Pacific for a 15-minute pre-show before Microsoft/Bethesda. It's going to be hard to get through everything in 15 minutes for those two. Probably the biggest press event of E3 2021.
Without any competition on that, really.
So we'll be back here 9:45 a.m. Pacific tomorrow to give you a 15-minute pre-show, live commentary over top of the press conference, and then afterwards, we'll do our analysis and Q&A. And then we actually are here for two events tomorrow. Square Enix follows that at 12:15. Again, our stream will be kicking off at noon for that. We'll probably go down for a little bit before we come back up for Square Enix, or maybe we'll just leave the stream up while we grab a snack or whatever, because we'll need a drink or something like that in between those events. But anyway, starting tomorrow at around 9:45 a.m. Pacific, we will be here pretty much the entire morning and afternoon. I'm really excited. E3 2021 in full swing. Hope you guys had fun today. I will see you guys early tomorrow morning for Microsoft and Bethesda. Have yourself an awesome day.